and why Jon Jones is now retiring, or at least is claiming that he's retiring, and why the UFC is virtually not really doing anything about it. In terms of really stripping him from the title, in terms of making it official, none of that is going on. At the very least, what they are trying to do is stall something, right? There's something going on behind the scenes. We don't know exactly what that is. Also, we don't know if Jon Jones is really just trolling this whole entire situation. As a matter of fact, Chael Sonnen made a video that I have yet to see, right? So I figured I'm gonna go see this video when I'm actually first. Shout out to Chattiest Gaming. How are you, my man? We got an interesting topic to discuss today. I'm actually making a thumbnail for it right now because I'm planning on making this video quite explosive. Okay, and obviously Jon Jones has said that he is done. Uh, he is going to retire, and we're going to find out exactly what that is. So I know that usually when the uh, the stream starts, I go right into it straight away and just go on and rock and all of that, right? Just but with this one, yeah, I'm literally like making a thumbnail right now. So the thumbnail is going to be Jon Jones sipping on a coconut because obviously that is the image that people are going to synonymize the idea of Jon Jones retiring based on just the recent events and what he has said he was going to do. So we're going to do exactly just that. And hold on just a second. Okay, so we're going to have that. And let's see. And then we're going to have this picture right here. So please bear with me as I make this thumbnail for a second. I make thumbnails pretty quickly. So, John, and I'm going to have Stipe's fight right here. Oh, yeah, the spinning back kick. That's a good image right there. That's a good image right there. All right, there we go. Hold on just a second. I'm going to show you guys exactly what I am doing right now. Oh, no, actually, no. You know what? I'm just going to show you once the thumbnail is on and cracking right here. So just please excuse me for just a second. Okay, hold on just a second here. And you know what I'm going to put on the thumbnail? I'm going to put retired on exactly why that is, right? I'm going to give you some logical explanation as to why many people are very upset at this particular decision right now. But the one thing remains about Jon Jones is that my man retired on top. Okay, retired on top, and I think that's going to piss off a lot of people, unfortunately. So please, just forgive me right now. I'm about to get started cooking. Anyways, the chat doesn't really start coming in here until like maybe 5 to 10 minutes or so. But in the meantime, we're gonna get this on and cracking. And as of recently, I've been doing more live streams than I have been doing videos. I don't know what it is with the videos, but YouTube is not putting out my videos like that for whatever reason. I don't know if it has something to do with shorts. I'm probably gonna have to eliminate the shorts on my on uh Treachery Game says, I'm back. How are you, man? Shout out to you and shout out to everybody in India for tapping in. So let me upload this right here. How are you, Treachery Gamers? We got a very interesting topic that we are going to talk about right now. But first, what I am going to do is I'm about to get a really good chicken sandwich. That's what I'm talking about, my man. Shout out to you and that sandwich. Oh my God, that was a second. What did you mean by that? That was a second. Everybody on the chat right now, hit the like and subscribe button because we're going to talk about why Jon Jones is retiring and why the UFC has yet to strip him as a result of it. Okay, so some really interesting topics that we are going to talk about. There it is. Now we got the thumbnail. Now we got everybody up in here. Will you pretend? X Stack says, "Will you pretend to be my dad?" Oh, well, I'm sorry that you don't have a dad. I really apologize for that, but you can't really pretend to be someone's dad. You're either someone's dad or you're not. And yeah, that's a bit tweaking on your side. Chatty is Gaming says, what did he say here, bro? It was two watching straight to eight. Yeah. Kyrie, what's your opinion on Roblox? I know that it's very popular amongst the kids. I don't really know a lot about it, but yeah, that's all I really know about it. Is that I know that it is um, that it is, yeah, it is something that a lot of kids are into, and it's not something I'm into specifically. But okay, but on any regard, all right. So we got the thumbnail. He says, "I'll keep looking." Haha. All right. Well, shout out to you, man. I hope that you do find your father figure that you've been yearning for after all these years. But in any event, yeah, that's kind of the strangest comment that I've ever gotten right there. And what you know about Minecraft? I did see the movie Minecraft. It was pretty good. I watched it on 3D. That's all that I really know about Minecraft treachery gamers. I would assume that's something that's very big on your end because obviously your name is Techie Gamers. I call you Treachery Gamers. Now that I'm looking, it's Techie Gamers. So what you are is a techie, not treacherous in any kind of way. I don't know why I kept calling you Treachery Gamers, but it's Techie Gamers as I'm reading it now up close and all that. Okay, so here we go. On the 8-minute mark, we are going to talk about Jon Jones. Okay, so we're going to do exactly just that right now. Hold on. So let's see here. So in about 30 seconds, we're going to get right into the subject matter at hand. Okay, so in 30 seconds, 20 seconds, I'm going to put this on timestamp right here. Begins. Okay, so here we go. That is the timestamp right there. The topic begins. So here we go. 8 minutes into the live stream, we are now going to talk about why Jon Jones has decided to retire, why a lot of people are upset about it, but also why many people are looking at this as Jon Jones being a duck and things of that nature. First off, I want to say this, right? Um, you guys know that I'm always going to bring up the George St. Pierre situation, right? George St. Pierre retired right after he beat um, Michael Bisping for his second belt. Nobody asked him to go fight Robert Whitaker, okay, because Robert Whitaker at the time was the Tom Aspinall of the 185 division. But nobody asked George St. Pierre to do it. You want to know why? Jon Jones has committed a lot of transgressions all throughout his career. And as a result of that, many of you want to see Jon Jones get toppled. And Tom Aspinall is that guy to do it. He's that guy to do it in more ways than one. Number one, he has the skills to do it. He has the size. He has the footwork. He has the ground game. But not only that, he has a very positive reputation about him. Okay, he doesn't have the scandals that Jon Jones has. He's a very humble guy. So you see a guy like that, you think to yourself, I want to see this guy beat this guy. That's what you're looking for. Okay, and you don't ask that for George St. Pierre because you want to see George St. Pierre do good. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that many of you want to see Jon Jones get toppled. Okay, and I'm going to elaborate more on that. First, let me read these comments right here. So, Abdul Rahim, good morning to you, sir. At least good morning in this side of the world in California. Abdul Rahim says, and I quote, "Hi everyone, assalamu alaikum. How are you doing? How are you all doing? Well, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Do you think Misfits boxing is a gimmick? Yes. Put the sport a bad name and mockery of boxing. I wouldn't say that. I think they are their own category. And Abdul Rahim is telling you guys to like, comments, share, subscribe. Great content. Thanks. Shout outs to Mr. Abdul Rahim right there. Techie Gamer says, You finally learned my name. Yeah, after reading it, for reading it correctly, right? Monticello, good morning to you, sir. Says Jones fought the love of his life in Thailand. Fought the love of his life in Thailand, huh? Okay. F15 says, brother, Jon Jones retired. Well, not officially, but he is proclaiming and saying that in a leaked phone call. And well, we're going to get to the nuances of it because I don't think it's really as simple as just Jon Jones retired. Now, obviously, that is a title, that is the most simplistic title that I have ever put on a content, whether it's a live stream or a video, but with good reason. Now, uh, now he says, Felix Guzman Martinez says Jones is the GOAT. Okay, so F15 says, brother, Jon Jones retired to not fight Tom Aspinall. It could be. Felix Guzman Martinez says, Alhamdulillah. Okay, great. So now that I got through those comments, I want to say this, right? Do you guys remember Brock Lesnar? Oh, let me read one more. I'm going to ride you, F15. Only non-dirty people get the joke. Okay, I don't understand what that means. You guys have a little inside joke thing going on here. But do you guys remember Brock Lesnar? Do you guys remember Fedor Emelianenko? In 2009, 2010, they were planning on making that fight. That fight never materialized. How about George St. Pierre versus Anderson Silva? That fight never materialized. How about who else was supposed to fight but never got to fight each other? There's a lot of fights that we never got. What about BJ Penn versus I don't know, Ben Henderson? There's a lot of fights. There's a lot of fights that is not happening for whatever reason, right? For many multitudes of reasons. Now, did that change the legacy of Fedor? Did that change the legacy of Brock Lesnar? Did that change the legacy of George St. Pierre or Anderson Silva? Obviously not. Okay, so let's read these comments right here. Monticello says Jones, the eye king of the ties. Okay, F15 says I get it. King Nadish says, did he retire, bro? We are discussing that right now on the nuances of this particular matter at hand. Chatty's Gamer says it's because his username is the name of a fighter jet. Okay. Guzman, Felix Guzman Martinez says SF Giants all day, sunny. Okay, so shout out to you. I know you're from the Bay Area, right? I think that's why you're repping the Giants. By the way, let me know, Felix. Right down my house, there is now the A's stadium in Sutter Health Stadium, which used to be the Sacramento River Cats, which was obviously what do you call it? I think a minor league team. But yeah, now the A's playing here. Let me know what you think about that now that the Oakland A's are no longer in the Bay Area and out here in Sacramento. F15 says Ilya Tapora versus Islam Makhachev. Oh, King Nadish. Okay, that's another one. Tony versus Khabib. Now, obviously, that didn't change the legacy of Tony and Khabib. Techie Gamer says, chat name a car for an edit. Tony versus Cable 2. Techie Gamer says, hi. King Nadish says, Mazda RX-7. Techie Gamer says, name a car for an edit. King Nadish says, Mazda RX. Okay, so we're having a little side conversation here. Okay, so as that's going on, right? So again, Tony and Khabib is another example of a fight that has never happened as a result of whatever multitudes of reasons. Obviously, the first time they tried to make Khabib and Tony Ferguson, Khabib had to pull out due to the fact that he had an injury. And then next thing you know, it was Tony Ferguson that had an injury. And then next thing you know, it was Tony Ferguson that tripped over a wire. Just a multitude of different things that went on. Now, with Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, it's a little bit different. What it is that I think Jon Jones has reached the generational limit of where he can fight at, right? Sometimes guys stay a little bit too long. Like, for example, if let's say Tyson Fury, or I'm sorry, not Tyson Fury, let's go with Alexander Usyk. Let's say if he stayed around for Moses Otama. Okay, Moses Otama right now in boxing is a 19-year-old kid, close to 20 years old, barely 20 years old, but he's a pro with like maybe 11 fights or so, maybe even a little less than that. And let's say he sticks around while Usyk stays till, I don't know, maybe he's 50 years old. And then at this point, Moises Otama is 30 years old, which means that he's going to be in his absolute heavyweight prime. Well, he sticks around. It would be a bad idea for him to do so because there's a generational limit to where he can fight at. And this is where his generational limit is at. And quite frankly, that alone, I can't blame him for that. There's a lot of legacy issues that Jon Jones is going to face if he was to take on Tom Aspinall and lose, which means that I think he's taking the best business decision right now. Now, that's not definitive. There are other reasons to look at this particular situation. The other situation is that perhaps maybe Jon Jones is really just out there trying to create a negotiating table on this particular matter at hand, right? Maybe he's trying to leverage the UFC because right now he's the champion, he has the belt. On top of that, the heavyweight division right now is at its all-time low when it comes to talent and recruitment. There's not a lot of challenges for Jon Jones out there. And you know what? There's not a lot of challenges for Tom Aspinall out there. Okay, let's give everybody their wish. Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall fight tomorrow or the next card over. Let's say maybe even 316, maybe even UFC 317. Okay, after that fight, then what? Let's imagine that world. Jon Jones wins. What do you get next? Who does he fight next? Does he fight Cyril Gane again? And then after that, listen, after he beats Tom Aspinall, he's gone up out of here. Once he's gone up out of here, what is next? Tom Aspinall comes back to fight for the vacant title against who? Cyril Gane? A guy that Jon Jones beat? Maybe that's a different matchup. Maybe that's a different outcome, but it's not the most exciting thing for the casual fans. Now, obviously, as hardcore fans, we want a definitive result at some point. But okay, let's say if Tom Aspinall was to win, what does he do again? Does he go and rematch Curtis Blades for the third time, knowing what we know and knowing the result of that outcome? So what do you do with that? Okay, and then here's another thing. What if Tom Aspinall just decides to retire tomorrow? My goodness, the heavyweight division would be in bad shape. Even worse than that, Francis Ngannou is gone up out of here. But Francis Ngannou has some serious offenses going on right now. Well, not really. Obviously, it's Africa, and he is an African champion. Not only that, an African superstar in that country, which means he can really get away with a lot of things. And you guys know what I'm talking about because I've done several live streams on this particular topic. Okay, so let me read the comments here. Monticello says, you look like a Dagestani BJ Penn. Man, you know what? I'm going to screenshot that and let my homies know. That is one of the best comments that I ever got right there. I look like a Dagestani BJ Penn. That is Monticello. Shout out to you, man. That's right there. Some of the best compliment that I ever got. Also, Mac F15 says also Max Holloway versus Khabib. Yeah, that never happened. Correct. That was supposed to happen because of Tony Ferguson, but the New York State Commission obviously did not approve of Max Holloway to get in there. F15 says Jon Jones knows that Tom Aspinall would win. Would win him and take the heavyweight title. Yeah, that is a possibility. Although we at this point we don't know what is in Jon Jones's head, right? But we are going to try and decipher that. Monticello says Jones versus retirement. F15 says Jon Jones versus Derek Lewis is a good matchup. Yeah, I think Jon Jones would probably say yes to that faster than he would say yes to Tom Aspinall, right? Renee says John. Shout out to Renee. That's a new commenter that I haven't seen here yet. Let me know what part of the world you guys are from on the comment section below. Shout out to everybody in here. So Renee says Jon Jones versus Aspinall. F15 says Tom Aspinall will not retire. For sure, he's too young, but I was sort of hinting at the hypothetical scenario being that the heavyweight division is in bad shape right now. UB Reactions, shout out to you. He says, hi, hello to you. Let me know what part of the world you are from. Topuria versus Islam. Now, that's still a possibility that is still out there waiting on the horizons, depending on the results of what these men are going to do in the next coming fights that they have. Prince Vandro says, who do you think wins, Khabib or Jon Jones? I mean, obviously, Jon Jones, there's a definitive size advantage on the part of Jon Jones, although I will reckon that Khabib would give him a good fight, but size is size, and size matters in the fight game, especially if you're Jon Jones, right? And that's probably the reason why he would have a hard time saying yes to a fight with Tom Aspinall, because he knows of the inherent danger that is going on with that. Della Maddalena versus Shafkat. That's a good fight. That could be a fight that could happen if Jack Della Maddalena gets through Islam, but obviously Islam is the bigger name. And as a result of that bigger name, they're going to want him to win or sacrifice Della Maddalena in a way where they're not going to give him any tune-up fights or anything like that. So yeah, Monticello has SpongeBob with the laughing emojis. Abdul Rahim says hi. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Also, how is your family? Very good, and loved ones, very good. Thank you for asking, Abdul Rahim. You're intelligent, intellectual, educated, God-fearing, and know everything about the sport and Islam. Blessings and greetings to you. Thanks. Thank you so much, Abdul Rahim. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate when there are people out there that do notice these things. And I couldn't be even more grateful. F15 says, do you know Bilal Muhammad lost the fight against Jack Della Maddalena? Oh, yeah, trust me, we know. And Bilal Muhammad's lips got cut. Yeah, that was a very, very bad cut on the part of Bilal Muhammad. But yeah, man, he got cut up pretty bad in that fight. Obviously, the striking of Jack Della Maddalena came into play and made that happen. But on any regard, so here's something you guys have to understand, right? Jon Jones, I don't know if he's scared or not. Now, I know that's something that a lot of people love to say. They love to say, well, Jon Jones is scared. He's afraid of this guy. He's afraid of that guy. In true to God honesty, we don't know. We don't know because there's a lot of factors involved here that, quite honestly, we have to take into consideration, right? There's the money issues. There's the issues where Jon Jones wants to get paid more. And you've seen this before a couple of years ago where he mentioned, man, I want to make Deontay Wilder money, in those exact words that he said. So, of course, there is a great possibility that there is a situation where he's trying to garner as much leverage on his side and, in particular, get paid the most. Now, also, the other thing he has to take into consideration is that the fact that Tom Aspinall is a heavy favorite here, perhaps maybe he has a situation where perhaps maybe he's sacrificing his legacy, right? And if so, is that worth it? Because here's the thing, if Jon Jones retires right now undefeated, he can garner all types of sponsorships, all types of movie deals. By the way, Jon Jones is already shooting a movie where he plays a Navy SEAL, so he's already got a career going on outside of fighting. But if he was to lose, do you think that any movies or anything like that would call him? We don't know. I mean, obviously, Ronda Rousey has lost quite a few times, but even then, she got movie deals, WWE, and all this other stuff. So F15 says, okay, I read that one. Princess Vandro says, what if Prince Nassim came back? Could he still dance his way to victory? So that's a very interesting question, Prince Vandros. I think that it would be very difficult for Prince Nassim to come back. Let me tell you why. Because Prince Nassim is so overweight to the point where he is beyond overweight from the original weight that he came from. Now, he is somebody that knows how to fight as a 125 or a 130-ish type of guy. For him to fight maybe at 175 or 160, which is, the best weight possible that he can get at, I don't know if that would be efficient for him, especially in a style that he did where there was a lot of dancing, a lot of moving, and a lot of this other stuff going on. So yeah, I don't know if he could exactly just go back to boxing, and especially in an optimal weight. Abdul Rahim says, hi, will we eradicate bias, tribalism, racist, and corruption in the sport and society? Like, comment, subscribe, WN, WN, YNWA. I don't know what YNWA means. Let me know what YNWA means, because I don't understand that acronym. But in any regard, to answer your question, could we eradicate biasness? No, that's something that's always going to be a part of the human existence. Tribalism, no, obviously that's not something that's going to happen. Racism, no, that will never happen. Corruption in the sport, It goes one in hand with each other, so I don't think that's going to be eradicated. But to answer your question, Abdul Rahim, all that we can do is change within ourselves, and that's really all that we can do. Prince Vandro says if he came back with a Rick Rude physical, with a Rick Rude physique, you mean? Okay, like meaning that he gets cut up in this and that. That's a possibility, but at what rate will Prince Nassim get out of the comfort of his life right now to do that type of thing, right? I mean, look at Conor McGregor. He's not really far away from his best fighting days, but even him, with all the money that he has going on, he still has a lot of issues trying to come back, and that is due to just situations of having too much wealth and, as Marvin Hagler says, waking up in silk sheets. Abdul Rahim says, "You will never walk alone." Liverpool FC badge. Yeah, isn't Liverpool the Premier League champions right now? I know that they finally ended the Premier League season, and I think they are the Premier League champions. Unfortunately, they beat my team, Manchester City. Manchester City is my team, by the way. For those that are interested or those that are into soccer or football, that's my number one team. I like the color blue. I like the light blue jersey color that they have. So that is my team. Pinder says, Pade. Prince Vandro says, a Rick Rude physique. I mean, I know what you meant. Yeah. And I sort of corrected it mid sentence while I was reading it. F15 says, Oliveira versus Topera. We all want Oliveira to win, but Oliveira will get mauled by Topora. Not so fast. Maybe that's not the case. Now, I want you to imagine a situation where Ilya Tapora is trying to put out Charles Oliveira. He may rock Charles Oliveira a few times, but what if Charles Oliveira comes back and out of nowhere, now it's the second round, now it's the third round, now you have to try and fight this guy and try to get the best scenario out of this situation, and you can't do it. You can't put him away. Now you're in a fight. That's a possibility, and that could happen. So I wouldn't rule out Oliveira giving him a hard fight, if not winning altogether. But one never knows. We got a couple of weeks to find out. Prince Vandro says money. Abdul Rahim says Nassim Hamed is old and retired. Correct. Prince Vandro says, I think he could come back. If not him, then Chris Eubanks Sr. Pinder says the pack keys are a good brand. Okay. I think you're trying to make me say something there, but yeah, shout out to my Pakistani brothers right there. Drizzy Goat says Ilya will KO Oliveira. Abdul Rahim says Nassim Hamed's sons fight. They do. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. I'd like to see how further they will go in their future. I'd also like to see some of Prince Nassim's kids even fight MMA as well. That would be interesting. I know one of the Eubank family members fought MMA. Yeah, and I think Ali's grandsons, one of his grandsons fight MMA, and the other one, obviously Ali Walsh, is a boxer. So yeah, that would be great to see. That would be great to see some kids boxers get into MMA. I know Terrence Crawford's kids are in wrestling, so that would be really good for them to see them in MMA. And yeah, so F15 says, I think Oliveira will win by submission. You know what? That is not an impossibility at all. Drizzy Goat says Marab beats O'Malley again. Abdul Rahim says Nassim is Yemen in England. Yes, that he is Yemeni and British. So okay, Chael Sonnen, he said something about uh, Jon Jones 16 hours ago, saying that Jon Jones is the biggest troll in the UFC, right? Now, we're going to explore that because we're going to take a look at some possibilities of this reality that maybe Jon Jones is just trolling his way. Let's listen to this. Okay, Drizzy Goat says the Georgian fighters are really good. They are, man. They are coming up right now. You got Marab, and then you got Ilya Tapora. So yeah, they are another different group of people that's coming up right now. He's not a troll. He's a loser. Pratt says Chael Sonnen is true. All right, let's hear what Chael Sonnen had to say about this. This is my first time listening to this, by the way. So yeah, keep in mind, okay? I'm reacting to this with you guys if you guys haven't seen it already or heard it, but we're gonna listen to the audio form of Chael Sonnen talking about Jon Jones here. Here we go.
in UFC history. Now, if you would have asked me to say any other time, I'd have told you no. If Jon Jones would have pulled me aside and showed me his greatness, but compared it to his bank account and said, why do these things not go together? I'd have explained to him, because you're not a very good troll. Right? I'd have explained some of the business side to him, the importance of commanding headlines, the importance of storytelling. Things that he does not do well.
Yeah, because Jon Jones is not a professional wrestler. Chael Sonnen, on the other hand, I don't think he was a professional wrestler either, but he's close to it, and he did bring the pro wrestling heel element into mixed martial arts. So he absolutely understands what it means to be over, what it means to pop for the crowd, or what it means to, let's say, do the work, as they say, right? So Chael has a very good understanding of that, and Jones just doesn't, because Jones is obviously a real fighter. He doesn't understand the world from the world of WWE, but he does understand the world of sports through mainstream sports and mainstream ideals, such as being media trained and the likes of his brothers who are in the NFL. So let's continue on with this.
But he's secretly pretty interesting. Like Jon Jones's opinion of the way a person should portray themselves for the public. He has a code. And it used to drive people crazy. They said, man, this guy's fake. This guy's nothing like it. Which was...
Yeah, this is what I mean. Jon Jones is media trained. You understand? He is a media trained athlete. Why would he not be? He is a brother of two NFL stars. One older brother who's already retired from the NFL, and one brother who's still active in the NFL right now. And shout outs to Chandler Jones and the Jones family on that one.
True. It was fake. He was nothing like his code. But what is the real Jon? How fun is the real Jon? The real Jon showed up to a press conference one time, turned to Daniel Cormier and said, I got high on coke and still knocked you out. Do you guys have to remember that? They're sitting down at a joint press conference, and all Daniel wants to do is mention this guy did coke. And we have proof. That's all he wants to just find a way to build a bridge between the audience and Jon's positive coke test. Daniel finally builds that bridge. And Jon uses that bridge to drive right over and say, I was high on coke and I still beat you. And it was one of the highlight moments. It was one of the highlight moments of Jon's career.
Now that right there was great, right? That was a great line right there, right? That was a great line that he said. All right, continue on with Chael Sonnen here.
As far as a reception, as far as what we call a pop from the crowd, Jon had won world championships. Jon stopped Shogun with a body shot, which nobody in MMA stops anybody with a body shot. Jon stopped Shogun with a body shot for a world championship to make him the youngest champion in UFC history. 4 things that have never been done all into one. And believe me, there was a reception. It wasn't as loud as the pop the crowd gave when Jon told Daniel, I got high on coke and still knocked you out. And so there was these things that Jon started to learn slowly. He just started to learn these very slow. And right when I think, all right, we got him, I can just take you back to his very last fight. Jon is scheduled to go on First Take with Stephen A. Smith. Now, the way they set it up, Stephen A. is putting Molly and everybody to the side. It's just going to be Stephen A. and Jon Jones. It's going to be a one-on-one sit-down on ESPN's #1 program. The only other fighter to get that airtime at ESPN is me, and I got it once. It is that hard to get that kind of airtime. That gets reserved for the starting quarterback. That gets reserved for the kid that just won the Heisman. That gets reserved for the person that just won Wimbledon. Just for example, they want Jon. Jon doesn't show. This is November of last year. Jon didn't show. John canceled it. In fact, he canceled all his media for the day and decided that he was going to go walk around New York City. No, I'm not kidding. So our ability to understand the growth of Jon Jones in terms of the entertainer and the partner and the brand and what it is he is expected to bring to the table in exchange for those huge paychecks, largely in that moment of touring Times Square, goes up in smoke. So John gets done with the fight. He says he wants to get $30 or $40 million. Now, this is great trolling. This is great trolling. Where do you get a number as random as $30 or $40 million? Like, if your parents ever ask you, do you need some money, you run to the store, and you're like, man, I need $2 or $3. You know, and I did $20 to $30 million. Like, what a random number. Why would you even have a discrepancy of number in mind so big, let alone go out publicly and speak it? Well, I'll tell you. Because Mike Tyson and Jake Paul had fought the night before, and there was a rumor that they made between 20 and 30 million bucks. I had just read the headline myself. 20 to 30 million was as fresh in my mind as it is in John's. When John sat down and said to go out there and finish this duel with Tom Aspinall, he's going to need about 20, 30 million bucks. And it was a very funny thing to say at the time. Not to mention it got a little bit of back and forth. Not to mention, you want to know the easiest way in the world to get something? The absolute easiest way. I know people are going to tell you to get a degree and work hard and buckle down and follow the rules. But you want to know the actual easiest way to get something? Ask for it.
Yeah, that's true. Now, is Jon Jones asking for money? A whole lot more money. He is. Is this the way that he's going to do it? How is he going to do it? He's going to threaten retirement because he's trying to say, look, I don't need this right now, right? Also, look, you got to understand something. Jon Jones has already a legacy that's intact, okay? One fight can literally change your legacy. You see, Anderson Silva, I think he should have retired on top. He should have never taken the Chris Weidman fight ever. Marty Miller says, I'm personally sick of the whole Jon Jones Aspinall thing. And you know what? Here's the thing. The UFC is stalling right now. The reason why you're sick of it is because the UFC needs to stall. I mentioned earlier in the live stream what would happen if Tom Aspinall was to win. Well, Tom Aspinall would have no real opponents other than Francis Ngannou, and we all know where Francis Ngannou is at. If Jon Jones was to win, it would really put the heavyweight division in a disastrous situation because now you got to bring Tom Aspinall back as the number one contender and then have him fight Cyril Gane or have him fight Curtis Blades again. And then eventually he's going to have to fight Curtis Blades again because Curtis Blades is just going to beat and out wrestle everybody. Especially if, let's say, he beats Cyril Gane for the interim belt, or I'm sorry, the vacant belt after Jon Jones beats him. And then there's not a lot of heavyweights on the horizon right now. So, yeah, quite frankly, I don't blame you for being sick of the whole entire Jon Jones thing. But it's the UFC's best case scenario right now is stall this whole entire situation.
That's the easiest way. Do you want to know the easiest way to be rich? This actually has nothing to do with the topic, but would you like to know? Buy something and then sell it for more money than you paid for it, enough to make you rich. That's still to this day the world's easiest way. Buy a piece of property for $2 million and sell it for $3 million. That is the number one way to become rich. So Jon Jones wants to do it through pugilism. He wants somebody else to just hand him a check. And he came up with a number of $20 to $30 million. Now, I don't know if I get to choose. Is that like to the promoter to decide?
Now, look, here's the thing, right? $30 million is an expensive money for him to, let's say, give up his undefeated streak, right? But at the same time, it's also the other side of it where Jon Jones is potentially trying to price himself out because he knows he can't win this fight at all. So the fact that he knows he can't win, he needs to go and price himself out as a result of it. But You never know.
Bernard looked at it and goes, all right, 20 to 30 million, I'm going to go with 28. Or he goes, well, and let's do good business here. He said he'd do it as low as 20. Let's go right at 20. It was just a very bizarre number, but it was still a number, and it was still the number, and it was still his number, and it's still the number from him that we're working on to this day. And Jon is now coming out and saying, I don't care if they do the fight. I don't care if they move on without me. Now, in the art of war, you must convince your opponent that you have a weapon that they are not prepared to deal with. That is step number one. You got to convince.
Okay, that's a good point by Chael. Is Jon Jones doing that? I think that's what it is. I think he's trying to. I think Jon Jones is trying to hide his card. And look, I think it's a little bit simplistic for many people to say, well, you know what? Jon Jones is scared or this and that. Look, man, you got to understand something, right? The WWE and TKO are now affiliated with the UFC, and as a result of that, they want to make announcements very dramatic. Okay, now imagine all these months, all this springtime, you're hearing that Jon Jones is a coward. He doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. He wants to retire. All of a sudden, it's in the middle of summer. And now they announce Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones for October or November in the MSG card. Now, how small and dumb would you feel saying all these things that you've been saying in the springtime all the way to the summertime, only for Jon Jones to actually fight Tom Aspinall, but has been hiding it for a long time? Now, I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not saying that this is the reality of what's going on, but I'm merely speculating that that could be a possibility. Marty Miller 65 says, I understand Jon not wanting to put his legacy on the line. Yes, he's 38 years old. He doesn't owe Tom or the UFC anything. That is correct. Because Marty Miller, I'll tell you, from the beginning of the stream, when the stream started, I mentioned George St. Pierre, right? Why is it that nobody was pushing George St. Pierre to fight Robert Whittaker after George St. Pierre won his second title the same way that Jon Jones did? What? Israel Adesanya official says hi. I don't know if that's the real Israel Adesanya. That's not the real Israel Adesanya, is it? No way. No way. I don't think that's the real Israel Adesanya. But on any regard, shout out to you, Israel Adesanya official. Is that the real Israel Adesanya? Hold up. Don't hold up. Let me make sure that this is not the real Israel Adesanya. Just update. I found my dad in the. Okay. Just update. Okay. Good for you. Good for you, my man. Let's see here. Let's take a look at. Wait. How do you get to this guy's page? Okay, I don't know. Okay, good for you. Good for you, my man. Let's see here. Let's take a look at. Is this? No, that's not the real Israel Adesanya, because the real Israel Adesanya's thing is, yeah, that's not easy. All right, nice try, but on any regard, shout out to you, man. Yeah, I was about to like add Israel Adesanya as one of the other celebrities to drop in on my live stream. I've had Jesse on Fire drop in on my live stream. I've had Dubs drop in on my live stream. But yeah, that's the most famous people that have been on here. But yeah, on any regard, as I was saying, Marty Miller, nobody expected George St. Pierre to fight Whittaker, right? Nobody expected George St. Pierre to defend his title afterwards. I mean, even Jon Jones defended his title, depending on, your tolerance of, the competitive architecture that came with that. But the reason why is because George St. Pierre was a nice guy. And let's be honest, Jon Jones is a super villain to the point where people do want to see him toppled. People do want to see him get disgraced, and people do want to see him get humbled. And as a result of that, this is a reason why people are so adamant in wanting to see Jon Jones fight a very dangerous opponent. But Marty Miller 65 is correct, man. He doesn't owe the UFC or Tom anything, and that's kind of the reason why he has this nonchalant attitude when you see him in these videos in Thailand. XXX says, me and my dad love GSP the GOAT. Yeah, man, he definitely is a GOAT. Not only is he the GOAT in the cage, but he was a GOAT outside of it as well. Marty Miller 65 says, right. People just want to see him lose. That's really what it comes down to, is that they just want to see him lose as a result of that. So, okay, let's continue on with Chael Sonnen here.
It's them that you've got it. Very hard thing to do. But number two is you must convince them that you are willing to use it. But if you have those two things together, if you are truly the best in the world and you are the one that the people want to see, and the history books will be written inaccurately if they don't involve you, and you truly are willing to take your ball and go home, you're in a very good position to begin to leverage and to start negotiating. Now, there's still a bottom and there's still a ceiling. There's deals that are sustainable, and checks that you can write, ways to get things done. And then there's things that we just simply don't do because that's not sustainable business. Those are also conversations for another day. But Jon Jones coming out and saying, I don't care. I haven't fought in a period of time. My brand is doing just great. I got this little thing going on in Thailand because the brand is so strong and I'm making money on it anyway. He is successfully showing us that he can move on without the belt successfully, but he also doesn't have all of the.
Marty Miller says, love your takes on the sport, man. Thank you so much, my man. Ernie says he doesn't owe the UFC anything, but yeah, he needs to retire. He has held the sport up enough. Correct. So you know what Joe Rogan, what GSP said on a Joe Rogan podcast regarding getting rid of his belt. He got rid of the belt because he knew that he did not want to hold up the division. He said that, you know what, I've been losing a lot of weight. I'm not really a real 185er. I don't think I can continue any longer. I just came in here because I knew it was the right matchup for me to get the second belt. And therefore, now it's time for me to leave. Same thing with Jon Jones. He knew that going in there against Cyril Gane was going to be an easy matchup. He knew that Stipe was going to be an easy matchup. That is his limit. He doesn't need to go any further than that. But once again, you guys need to understand, if it is definitive that it is Jon Jones's choice wanting to retire right now, it is only because he wants to keep his championship intact. But for those of you that are pushing him to wanting to fight Tom Aspinall, it's because you know that Tom Aspinall, or at least has a slight idea that he can beat him. But you want to see Jon Jones beat, because here's the thing. I'm going to give you the most shocking reason why a lot of you want to see Jon Jones get beat. You want to see Jon Jones get beat because many of you live in a movie. A lot of you want to see the bad guys fall. A lot of you want to see this, this heel figure, this bad guy that did all these horrible things, finally get justice to him. I got a news flash for you guys. Bad guys in this world win, whether you like it or not. Whether I like it or not, or whether you like it or not, in this world, Jack, the bad guys win. What did that evil bad guy in Last Action Hero in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger say when they teleported from the movie fictional world and into the real world, right? While he was busting shots at Arnold Schwarzenegger, what did he say? That British bad guy in Last Action Hero. He said, Jack, in this world, Jack, the bad guys win. The bad guys win in this world, Jack. Okay? That's really what it is. RZ says, Tom Aspinall should have already 3 title defenses in this time. Correct. I agree. They are absolutely stalling his career out, and it's absolutely horrendous. In this time, if Jon Jones wouldn't troll him. Yes. Ernie says, right. He did the right thing by going to the heavyweight division. He was the best at light heavyweight. And he picked the right matchup that he knew he could win. Marty Miller 65 says, exactly. Tom is so good. He should fight and keep winning. Chattiest Gaming says, then join me and we can beat them. Okay, I don't know what you mean by that. Marty Miller 65 says, Tim, I think he means Tom, is still young. John took on all comers at his age. Correct. RZ says, Tom Aspinall has beaten almost everyone in the top 10 heavyweight division in 1 minute, while Jon Jones has 1 win over Cyril Gahn, who was cherry picked. That is also correct.
Information, which is those camps and seminars that want to have him don't want to have the former champion. It is very much a game of linguistics. The moment he is stripped and the moment he is former champion, that value does decrease. That's true. And there's been many heavyweight champions out there that are rubbing nickels together that didn't understand.
Marty Miller says 2 wins, Riz, and then he beat Stipe 2. Yeah, I mean, if Jon is satisfied with that career in that, okay, you know what, I'm going to stop right here with Stipe Miocic. I got to fight in front of my president in New York, and you know what, you can't top or beat that. Some people just need to know their limits. They just need to know when they've had enough. Now, look, obviously, I'm not a drinker. I'm a Muslim guy, right? I don't drink beer or alcohol, but you guys out there, you've had friends that drink. You guys go out there and drink. You know how it is when there's that one guy that knows he's had enough. He's like, all right, you know what? 1 or few drinks, that's it. I'm done. And then there's guys out there that don't know when to finish.
And that concept, they're still talking around and sitting around and telling you about the yesterday. That's true. I don't know that that's the situation Jon's in, because I don't believe that Jon's unwilling to do this fight. I don't believe Jon's holding this fight up at all, as a matter of fact. I think that Jon has been very clear, whether it's up, down, or sideways. I think he's been very clear with the UFC where he stands and that they have accepted his position.
Chael is right about that. He's very clear about his position and what he wants to do. Now, with the UFC, on the other hand, I don't know but you know what? Speaking of which, I'm going to play you guys a video in audio form of what I said about Alex Pereira, right, being hacked. This was like 9 days ago. I have it on my video section. I want you guys to hear this because this sort of correlates to how the UFC does their business. So Miller says, exactly, walk away after taking out Stipe or risk getting KO'd by Tom, because let's face it, he loses to Tom, it's probably going to be a KO. And man, listen, Jon Jones does not want to become a meme, right? Because he can easily become a meme, especially with all the things that he's done. People are just going to easily look at that and say, you know what, man, he deserved it. He deserved it. Fresh Melon Juice says, Tom Aspinall has said he will defend 1 to 3 times and retire. Why would Jon Jones want to fight a dude who's not aiming for greatness? People will forget Tom. Well, I don't know about that. I think Tom is still paving his way right now, but I know what you mean, Fresh Melon Juice. And then Marty Miller says, right. RZ says, actually, Jon Jones' career has been lackluster since 2019. Okay, I can agree with that a little bit. In 2019, he took on Anthony Smith with decision, right, and, very controversial at that. In 2020, he lost to Reyes, correct, and then he dodged Francis for 2 years. I can't blame you for saying that. That is true. Okay, listen to this audio with regarding Alex Pereira. I think you guys are going to understand what I mean by how the UFC works in this particular matter. Here it goes. Alex Pereira says he was hacked. Is it true? Well, I'm going to lean towards no. I'm going to tell you why. The reason is, let's look at it like this, right? Alex Pereira has done everything that the UFC has asked of him. Conor McGregor card falls off, throws in Alex. He goes in there on a short notice. Another superstar falls off through an injury. Here comes Alex, rescuing the entire show, headlines the entire pay-per-view, and gets another knockout. Does the UFC another favor, takes on a dangerous challenger, and Ankalaev loses a 5-round decision. Of course, some will look at it as controversial and it could have gone the other way, but nonetheless, he was in there. He was in the fire. He won some, he lost some, and he won more some than he did actually lose one. But this particular battle that he has going on with the UFC on the low, I think he is absolutely losing the negotiating battle. Now, why do I say that? Because obviously the message that he spoke about, where he was unhappy with the UFC, he was unhappy with the situation, he felt like whatever it is that he was going through was not being appreciated. And so he feels the need to possibly retire, because what else is there to accomplish? Alex has already gotten 2 multiple belts in not only glory, but also in the UFC. It's a great career, both in kickboxing and MMA. And on top of that, I'm sure he's made plenty of money to retire, but that's neither here or there. What I'm saying is that when it comes to leverage, hey, he has some kind of leverage in terms of getting out of a situation that he doesn't want to be in. Now, what is it about this situation that he doesn't want to be in? Well, we're not really sure, right? And again, there's a lot of cryptic message going on here, but it is, however, on the internet. And you know how they say, right? Whatever is on the internet is there forever, and it's going to be there for people to scrutinize in every kind of way. So look at it like this, right? Alex Pereira has been a good soldier for the UFC, but the UFC is bigger than every individual. The quintessential term, nobody is bigger than the program. Nobody's bigger than the program when it comes to the UFC, okay? Because their brand and their logo is way bigger than any logo of any fighter. And let me explain why that is. Because every fighter that has grown up to wanting to be an MMA fighter has looked at those logos and said to themselves, this is where I'm going to aspire to be, no matter how big. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, let's read some of these comments right here. Okay, so 2 years. Marty Miller says, don't forget, he beat the crap out of Gustafsson in the second fight. He did. But the first fight will always live in infamy. Frankie J says, I wish I could strip Jones so that everyone could stop pretending we still care about Jon Jones. Yeah. I think at a certain point, right, people start to kind of get tired of you, right? Mayweather retired. He knew that after Berto, there wasn't really anybody out there that he could fight that would be suitable for him, right? So he just decided, you know what? I'm just going to retire right here, and that's that. Afterwards, he fought Conor McGregor. So obviously that was a big money fight, but also a fight that he knew he could win. Okay, remember the common theme here. You come back for a fight that you know you could win. Marty Miller says, and I think Reyes' fight was close, but Jon came on strong in 4 and 5, and I can see why he won. Okay, Frankie J says, I don't know why UFC is so good to him. He did UFC a lot of favors. The UFC has already been done many favors from Alex Pereira, but look at this. They needed him to go save UFC 317, and out of nowhere, they're like, nope, sorry, we're going to shelf you because you decided to say no at a critical time, even though he literally saved the entire company in 2014 as a result of it. Marty Miller says, at this point, they should probably just strip him, either set a date for a fight or strip him. Fresh Melon Juice says, GOAT, Jon Jones knows he's out of his prime. Ernie says, Jon Jones is in Thailand. I think the fight might be happening and Jones is training. That's what I'm saying. Think about this, right? He's in Thailand. It's not like Jon Jones is in Switzerland, right? If he was in Switzerland, I mean, obviously, if he was training with Volkan Oezdemir, that would be one thing. But Switzerland, other than Volkan Oezdemir, is not known to be an MMA country. So what is he doing in Thailand? And then you've seen him. He was doing a little shadow boxing or a little slap boxing with a Russian boxer. What is Tom Aspinall's biggest threat other than the ground game? It is boxing. What was he doing? He was training with a Russian boxer in Thailand, and then obviously working on Muay Thai in Thailand because that's the country that literally invented the sport. So as a result of that, you also got to take into facts, right? Tom Aspinall's last loss was against Curtis Blades, and it was because he got his leg blown off. Can you imagine Jon Jones trying to leg kick Tom Aspinall as a strategy? Okay, so Miller here says, yeah, Dana always says Jon is the GOAT, so he kind of gets special treatment. Correct. Marty Miller says, I think he's in Thailand doing some show for Tough. Correct, he's also doing that. Ernie says that makes sense. Since I think he means to say sense. Fresh Melon Juice says Dana says Jon Jones is the GOAT, and Khabib's father said Jon is the GOAT. He also said that Jon is a gift from God. If I remember what Abdul Manap said about him. Frankie J says, here's Jon Jones's plan. Drag your feet until Tom Aspinall takes another fight. Hope for Tom Aspinall to lose so he can say, see, I told you so, and retire. Sort of like the Mayweather route, right? He made Manny Pacquiao do that, and eventually Manny Pacquiao got knocked out by Manuel Marquez. Manny Pacquiao came back, got a few wins, strung them along, And then next thing you know, Mayweather decides to take that fight because he sees vulnerabilities in Manny Pacquiao. So yeah, I see exactly what you mean by that. So Marty Miller says probably true, Frank, but I don't blame him. Correct. And I'm going to explain why Marty Miller says I don't blame him. Right. I'm going to give you a human side of fighting that maybe a lot of you who have never fought or have never been in the cage or don't know anybody who's been in the cage personally. Um, I'm going to give you some reasons behind that, right? The human side of fighting, right? Not the bravado or I'm the toughest guy in the world or I'm going to take on anybody anytime type of business, right? Fresh Melon Juice says Khabib told Dana he retired, but Dana refused to accept it. This is sort of a similar thing that's going on right now. Maybe John has told Dana he's retired, but Dana can't accept it. Correct. So there are some things that is very similar to that. Ernie says, and steroids are legal in Thailand. Oh yeah, well yeah. Okay, and then Marty Miller laughs at Ernie because I'm laughing at Ernie for saying that as well. RZ says Aspinall is 32 and he has the potential 8 years left as maybe the biggest heavyweight of all time. Correct. But instead, they protect Jon Jones, someone who maybe has one fight left and is not even good on pay-per-view. Okay. RZ says Jones must have some sus videos from Dana. Jon Jones must. Oh, man. I tell you what. If there's anybody that has any sus videos on Dana, it is probably Ali Abdelaziz. Okay. Shrek says, indeed. UFC, Shrek also says UFC has always been overprotective of Jon Jones. Well, because he's earned it. Think about this, right? Jon Jones has earned the right to be protected by the UFC. But also, I'm going to go into Marty Miller's comment on saying why he doesn't blame him. There's a human side and element to this. Let me finish off this audio video for you guys right here. You are, even if it's Anderson Silva with that symbol, Michael Jordan like symbol that he has where he has the front kick towards Vitor Belfort, right? That's an iconic symbol for Anderson Silva. The other symbol for Chuck Liddell having those ice coming out of his shorts and then the flames that comes out of Tito Ortiz and all of that. All of these things, right? They're all logos for these fighters. George St. Pierre with the whole Japanese gi outfit for karate and then jiu-jitsu and all of that, right? All of these things, yes, they are a logo for each and every one of these fighters. But remember this, the reason why Alex is losing his battle is because nobody is bigger than a program, and whatever top symbols you see or whatever icons you see from these legends, they will never be bigger than the icon and the symbol of the UFC because nobody is bigger than the program. And that's something that Alex is now understanding when it comes to these negotiation tables that are going on behind the scenes. So with that in mind, that is all that I have for this. All right. So, okay. Shout outs to Marty Miller. He says, I could listen to you talk MMA all day, brother. Thank you so much, man. I could talk MMA all day. Obviously, like yourself, it's a passion of mine, something that I have a good understanding. So, yeah, I understand your sentiments on that, brother. Thank you so much, and thank you for your support, my man. Fresh Melon Juice says Dana turned his back on Jon Jones when he hyped Francis. Correct, because like what I said in this video right here, where I talk about Alex Pereira possibly leaving the UFC, where he supposedly said his social media got hacked. Nobody is bigger than the program. Not even John. Now, they will use certain athletes to sort of catapult one over the other or use one athlete to provoke the other athlete from fighting each other because that's just what matchmakers do. But once again, nobody is bigger than the program, and that's literally what the UFC is trying to emphasize with you. Look at Alex. He saved the company several times in 2024. Now, all of a sudden, 1 year later, after knocking out Yuri Prochazka literally last year in last year's international fight week, now they're punishing Alex Pereira for saying no because he just lost to Ankalaev. He doesn't want to lose again. He has all these underlying injuries. But then they're like, you know what? Nobody is bigger than the program. Okay, we read that one. Tom Aspinall is on live interview with Mighty Mouse. Oh, is he? Marty Miller says, you have a great understanding. It's refreshing. Thank you so much. Okay, let's Let's take a look at and see this interview with Mighty Mouse. Marty Miller says Conor got bigger than the UFC, and I don't think they'll let any fighter do that again. Okay, so before I look for those lives with Tom Aspinall and Demetrius Johnson, I may just do a separate video on that, do some research and do some different commentary on that. But on any regard, yes, Conor McGregor has gotten bigger than the UFC, right? And this is the reason why it was very difficult to match Conor up in a way where it's just a little bit easier to get Jim Miller to fight, right? Jim Miller has accumulated dozens and dozens amounts of fights because he was fighting on the low key, right? Whereas with Conor McGregor, everything has to be this extravagant event. Now you got to get the vendors involved. Now you got to get merchandising involved. Now you got to get all these TV conglomerates involved, right? There's just a lot that goes into a Conor McGregor fight as opposed to a Jim Miller fight. But I would argue that if Jim Miller was to fight Conor McGregor today, guess who would win that fight? Anybody who's a real hardcore fan right here will know the answer to this. Who wins that fight between Jim Miller and Conor McGregor today? And I think we know the answer to that. I'll answer it for you right now. It's Jim Miller. You want to know why? He was able to accumulate dozens and dozens amounts of fights on the low key because you know what? It doesn't take a lot to get him in the cage. But even if Conor is eager to get in the cage, it takes a lot because of the notoriety and the publicity that comes with a Conor McGregor fight. So another thing I wanted to address with Marty Miller, where he says you can't blame Jon Jones for doing this. I agree with him, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't disagree with that notion alone with Marty Miller saying you can't blame Jon Jones. You really can't. I'm going to tell you why. Fighting, okay, is seen in two different lenses. It is looked at from the lens of the fighter, the manager, and the people that are within the team of the fighters, right? And then there's the lens of the fans. What you, the fans, want to see, and even myself, even though I've fought and even though I've known a lot of professional fighters and trained with some of the top professional fighters in the world, even I have a bloodthirst that fans do, and that's exactly what it is. You fans have a bloodthirst. You have a bloodthirst in a way that the Caesars of Rome had when they were asked, "Hey, do you want to see this guy live, or do you want to see this? Do you want to see this guy live, or do you want to see this guy get unalive?" Many of you do this like you're Caesar, right? This is what you want. You want to see this. That's what you want to see. You want to see somebody get their heads knocked off because that's just human nature, right? And you don't have any emotional attachments to these people. You don't have any sense of care for Jon Jones. I mean, you guys care enough as fans to know that, hey, Jon Jones is healthy. He's here to entertain you guys. He's here to do interviews. He's here to do fights. He's here to corner one of his fighters that is in Greg Jackson or guys that he trains with. He's there as an ambassador for Russia's Tough series, right? He's in all those things, right? But the bottom line is that, quite frankly, many of you are not going to see the lens of the humanity from a fighter, meaning that you're not going to live with Jon Jones when Jon Jones is in his deathbed suffering from, let's say, CTE or underlying issues that fighting may have caused him. That is one side of fighting that many of you are not willing to take into consideration, and with good reason, because you guys are bloodthirsty, and that's really all there is to it. But once again, two lenses that people look at fighting: from the side of the fighters, where you care about their health, their well-being, and how they end their career in a positive note. And then the other side is you want to see them toppled, get beat, and destroyed by any means necessary. And that's really just the reality of the situation at hand. So with that in mind, we have now just concluded, let's say, the, how do I say this? The live portion of this. We're going to go into a bonus stream, right? What I do with the bonus stream is, once I've exhausted all the particular details that we've talked about with a certain subject matter that I bring up, we're going to go into the bonus round, the bonus round of this live stream. So stay tuned, stay on this live stream. We're going to keep this on and cracking and all of that. Fresh Melon Juice says, I think the majority want Jon to get out undefeated, but those who do are few and loud like the crazy left. All right. Yeah, that's true, right? There are people that do want to see Jon Jones do good, but they are a few and they are loud and they are like the crazy left. I do agree with that. Yeah. Oh, that don't want. Okay. Marty Miller 65 is heck yeah, keep on going. We will keep on going. But for now, let me leave you guys with this audio right here. I will be back in like exactly 5 minutes from here. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you with this video regarding Ian Gary and Buckley. Okay, so sort of like an audio version. I will be right back in exactly a few minutes. Okay, be right back. Stay tuned. Is constantly.
What up, y'all? Y'all know I had to pull up on Ian Gary at the weigh-in for talking all that mess in this little interview. So I'm waiting patient. As soon as I pull up, boom, she bumped right into me. She gonna use the baby as a shield, pass him off to him. So I'm like, all right, I'll let you have that one. But as soon as I'm about to turn around, she comes over to me, caress my arm, and say, I'm gonna see you later on tonight. Girl, what the fuck that mean? I'm trying to see him, not better and interesting way for the audience. So I made more money. It's good for business. There was never a point where you thought, man, this is crossing a line and I might act, a little bit crazy as a result of this? Ariel, there's a reason why I never put my family and my real private life public. It's because, and I know if someone wants to get to me, it's easy for me. It comes from one ear and it goes out on the other one, and I don't take it personal. But if you try to get to someone that I love or, someone in my family, now it's going to be a different story. So that's why I always try to hide this part of my life, because I am a public person. Yeah. So this part, it's public, it's for the fans. But my private life, for me, it's even more precious to me. It's to compare with my career, my life is a million times better than what I've done in my career. But I keep it secret because it's my private life. It's my diamond. It's my treasure. To make him lose is chill. There's a way that you can get to him is to attack someone that he loves. Now, sometimes it's a better way than if you try to attack the person itself. You know what I mean? And I knew that, and I didn't want to give the chance to my opponent to use that against me. Wow, that is fascinating.
Now, why was he the greatest fighter of all time when he's got 2 losses, of which he avenged, but not in comparison to Jon Jones? Because I'm talking about not only inside the cage, but outside of the cage. You see, what George St. Pierre did correctly was realize that you needed to keep your mental health intact. Now, I know Ian Gary is going to say, I don't care what people think. I don't really care what others say. And I believe him. I do believe that Ian Gary sort of developed a sense of delusionality in order to become the high-level operator that he is. The problem is that it does affect you in some kind of way. You see, even Eddie Hearn himself had said on the Ariel Helwani show, he said something to the effect of, I don't care who you are, social media affects you in any kind of way. You may say that it doesn't affect you, but it does affect you in some kind of capacity.
The kid's saying to me, God, how'd you deal with that? I said, mate, unfortunately, this is the sign of life and the sign of the times more than anything. Anyone that's successful, anyone that's making their moves, the ones that don't have that energy, the ones that don't have the fire in their heart, will always try and bring you down. So if it affects you, come off it. Right? You can post, you can interact, but it can't not affect you. That's how I did the same. I ran my own social media accounts for years and years and years. And you just get to a point where after a show, I go back to my hotel, right? And I watch a lot of the fights back, which is quite sick in itself. But I just love to. And there would be a stage where I would just be scrolling through Twitter. Now that's my life. That's my product. All my energy goes into those shows. So why do I want to read some geezer telling me it was shit, or some guy telling me you're this, you're that?
You're only lying to yourself. A lot of people say, I don't care what other people say. I don't care what they think of me. To a certain extent, I believe that. You want to know something? I got to be honest with you. I've said this plenty of times myself. I don't care what other people think. I don't care what other people say. The reality is you do, and the reality is I do. I'm not going to lie about it. I'll admit it. It's not that I care what people think. It's just that I care when others have something negative to say. And by the way, that right now is a human reaction. It's very natural to feel that way, because otherwise you're not human, or you're either a sociopath, and if that's the case, well, then you could probably get on with life in ways that most normal people can't. But the reality is this: Ian Gary needs to stop putting his family out there, because I'm going to be honest with you. In the streets, or in the cage, or in any professional setting, you don't think that people out there will use your family against you? Now think of it like this, right? If any of you have been in an interrogation room before, or in a room with detectives asking you questions, trying to get you to snitch on somebody, what is it that they usually say to you? What sort of appeals are they making towards you? You know what it is? They say something to the effect of, well, what about your family? Think about your family, man. What will your family say? Yeah, that's what cops always say in the interrogation room, right? They always say to you, well, what do you think about your family? What do you think your family is going to say to this or this and that, to try to basically pressure you into snitching. Okay, so Jones Beats Tom, interesting screen name you got there, is actually retiring now or after? Well, we don't know exactly, right? There's a lot of speculation going on, but Jon Jones did say that he is done. So we are trying to analyze exactly what that means. The Aspinall fight, or will it happen? Right now, we're leaning towards no, but I think that there is some negotiation tables going on behind the scenes where they are trying to sway Jon Jones into not retiring, but taking on this fight. So if you want the full details of this particular topic, rewind back from the very beginning, because what we are on right now, we are in the bonus round of this particular live stream. So in this live stream, the algorithm keeps leading me here. All right. Well, shout outs to my man Robert right there from Korea. I remember you from yesterday, even though I don't read Korean. I remember your screen name, and I do remember the structure of your letters and this and that. But yeah, thank you for explaining to me. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Jones beats Tom. I thought with a screen name like that, you would probably know more than I do. John beats Tom has subbed. Thank you so much for your support. Also, shout outs to Robert from Korea for his support as well. So right now, you guys are now entering the bonus round of this live stream. We can go for an extra 5 minutes, maybe even an extra 5 hours. One never knows. But this is where I talk about life portions of things outside of MMA. So in other words, one of the main reasons why I decided to do an MMA channel is because obviously I love MMA. I've been part of MMA. I've fought in MMA before. I've fought in Muay Thai. I've fought in all types of different martial arts competitions. I've wrestled all throughout my life and grappled and things of that nature. So I have a good understanding of the sport. But beyond the sport, and as Joe Rogan says, that martial arts is the greatest vehicle for understanding one's human limits and potential, or something to that extent, I wanted to use that opportunity to talk and basically convey about the message of life. Right now, I don't want to get into my life story or anything like that, but like myself and like many of you, I'm sure you've all gone through different things in your lives, right? For me, I think martial arts has helped me in whatever adversity I was going through in my life. And I'm sure that for those of you that have trained, you guys can understand that. So not only do I talk about the sport, but I also talk about the human side of the sport and the human side of just humanity, period, outside of the sport as it relates to MMA and whatever else can correlate to those particular stories. So with that in mind, what are the stories that we can learn from with Jon Jones right now? Okay, everyone is forcing Jon Jones to wanting to fight. We don't know if he really wants to fight. We don't know if this is a play. We don't know if this is somehow trying to garner even more attention for whatever it is that we're trying to do. But here's one thing that I do know and understand, right? Nobody is going to care for you the way that your family does. So, in other words, the way that you guys are pushing Jon Jones to fight a very dangerous Tom Aspinall, to which he could potentially face life-threatening injuries later down his life. Okay, you guys don't care for Jon Jones the way that his family does. Okay, the same thing for his brothers that also play in the NFL that could potentially suffer from long-term CTE as their careers and their lives go on. This is the reality of the sport, right? Fresh Melon Juice says John versus Ilya is the fight to make. All right, man. My man Fresh Melon Juice is trolling right now, right? Now, that would be absolutely unfair, and I don't think any commission would approve that. But I think you're pulling my leg on that one, Fresh Melon Juice. But yeah, so the other video that I was playing before I got into the bonus round, by the way, you guys check it out. This video needs help with some views. It is Ian versus Buck. Family exposing in the fight business is ugly. Now, look, here's the thing, right? The Dagestanis did very well when it came to keeping their life private. Not only did they keep their life private, you don't know anything about their kids or wives or anything like that. Of course, Conor McGregor did make one comment where he said, "Oh, well, mate, I think your wife is a towel," or this and that, because he really had nothing else to say. Because obviously, as Muslims, we cover our wives up and our women and this and that. So you're going to try to attack any low hanging fruit that you can find, and that's just the nature of Conor McGregor as an athlete overall. But on any regard, yeah, Marty Miller says, yeah, it's not worth it for John to fight Tom. He's not going to gain anything by beating him. He's already a legend. Risk isn't worth the reward. That is correct, man. Risk is not worth the reward in that particular instance. And you know what? This is the human side of fighting. This is the human side of the live stream right now, and that's what we sort of emphasize in the end are the human lessons that we can learn from this, right? And many people are not going to understand that. They're going to want to call him a coward or this and that. But by the end of the day, understand this, right? The opinions of others never really weighs upon the opinions of others should never really weigh upon you the way that, let's say, your loved ones do, right? The ones that actually care for you, the ones that actually have your best interests at heart. But let's continue on with what I said about Ian Gary and Buckley. Like I would say about, oh, this is 2 weeks ago this video was made. They use this not as a way of trying to console you or trying to tell you that they care about your family, but they are saying all of these things to try and get in your head. Because family, yes, this is a little bit out of hand right now in the part of Joaquin Buckley and what's going on. It's getting way out of hand. However, as out of hand and as underhanded as this is, it's part of the fight game. It's literally what you do. This is what you do in the fight game. You antagonize your opponent for the sake of the art of war. And right here, the art of war says this, right? As I was saying here in the video, it literally shows the AI overview of Google. In the art of war, Sun Tzu emphasizes the importance of controlling emotions, maintaining composure in a strategic decision making. He suggests that a calm, detached warrior is more likely to succeed than one driven by anger or ambition. The text highlights the value of understanding the enemy's psychology and exploiting their weakness, which can be influenced by their emotional state. So, okay. Which is one, to emotionally imbalance your opponent so that you can get him to not think clearly within his own game plan and throw him off of whatever plan or strategy he had going on. And that in and of itself is a strategy. Getting in your emotions. Ian Gary is a good dad from everything that he shows on social media, from everything that he virtue signals about. And I'm not going to make any particular bones about that. That's literally what's going on. It is virtue signaling at best. However, for what he shows, he is a good dad. But here's the thing, right? In a sport where it is 95% male audience, I'm going to be honest with you, no one really cares that you're having kids. No one really cares about your relationship with kids as fighters. They don't. Maybe the women or maybe other kids or maybe other people that really care, other men that really care about that subject, fair enough. They will care, but the majority of men who are mixed martial arts fans are just not going to care. So why do it? Why put yourself out there? Well, okay, as a fighter, you have to put yourself out there, but why put your family out there? Did Ian Gary ever once think in his head that, hey, you know what? Maybe what if one day my kids don't want to be seen in this particular light, right? Would it have been better if they had just kept them off in a private setting, right? I think privacy right now, in a world of social media where a lot of people are at its highest disclosure rate, right? Meaning that they disclose everything that they have going on with their lives and everything that they do on a daily basis. I think this is something that is unfortunately very common, but something that needs to be nipped in the bud so that you can have control over what people say about you. But here's the thing about Ian Gary that you guys have to understand. He's very delusional, and as such of his delusionality, he's not going to care about any of these things. Because let me explain what is in the mind of Ian Gary right now. He believes in his mind that, hey, you know what? I am the best fighter in the world. And granted, you should really believe that about yourself. But at the same time, you also have to understand that Ian Gary is not self-aware of what is going on in the social media world. He blocks himself away from it. And he even disables comments in his YouTube page, which, by the way, is very important for the engagement and increasing your views even higher. I mean, his YouTube does pretty good views, obviously. He's a high-profile athlete, but he could have done more views if he allowed the comment section to be enabled. But unfortunately, it's disabled, and I'm also going to be honest about this. He has the right to do that. Whether it's higher engagements or lower engagements or not, Ian Gary has the right to do that. You want to know why? Because he doesn't need to listen to your abuse. You guys have to understand that. He does not need to listen to the abuse that you spew at him. He doesn't need to listen to that. You want him to listen to that. You want him to read it, because for whatever it is that you have against Ian Gary, and by the way, to be honest with you, I can understand what you may have against him. I don't agree with his lifestyle. I don't agree with his life choices in the matter of changing his last name and in the matter of how his wife is constantly in the forefront of everything that he does, right? But then again, she just became this natural character that's within the realm of Ian Gary's universe. I'm going to leave it off with this in the last 2 minutes, okay? I'm going to give you guys some game on life, okay? Many times, a lot of people love to tell you that, hey, you know what? Why are you turning off the comment section? Why are you erasing abusive comments or this and that? As if we're supposed to just sit there and take any verbal abuse that comes with us. Now, there is a way to mitigate all of these insults that come your way, right? You have to have self-realization. Like, for example, there are many people that come in here online and throw me hate and say something to the effect of, well, you know what, you're not really a fighter, or you don't really fight, or you've never fought, or you're this or that, you're probably not athletic. And the next thing you know, I show them videos of me, not only fighting, clips of me fighting, also training, all the strenuous training that I do. And then they just shut up and have nothing to say after that. Okay, well, that right there is one way that I cope with it, right? But for everybody else that has to cope with, let's say, the abuse that hurls your way, understand this. You don't need to listen to any of that. You don't need to be on the forefront of any of that. Now, me, on the other hand, I've thrown myself into public figure in the public figure stream of things where I am going to be criticized and this and that, but how I deal with it is understanding self-realization and understanding who I am and what I've done over the years to get me to where I am and to get me to feel the way that I am about certain things, right? But not everybody has that same assurance. And if you don't, the best thing to do is just learn to turn that off, because if you don't turn that off, man, I'm telling you, I think that you are going to allow other people to dictate things in your mind. But yeah, man, Marty Miller here says, I agree. I could never deal with the online hate. It would get to me. Marty Miller says, I found your stream doing a workout and I could immediately tell you were legit. Thank you. Your circuit training totally mimics the type of cardio you use in a fight. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying is that, yeah, that's where a lot of my confidence comes from. Look, there's not a man on this earth, unless, of course, you're a high level, UFC fighter. And even if you are a high level UFC fighter, what would you be doing trying to start a street fight with me? Unless, of course, I did something to provoke you. But other than that, most human beings, I totally have zero fear for. And that is the reason why I do these types of workouts, why I train on a consistent basis, even though I don't compete anymore, is because when the fade happens and when it goes down, I want to be able to be the man to have the leverage over everybody. Now, that's where a lot of the confidence comes from. Now, for those of you that lack confidence out there, the best thing that I could tell you is that, you know what, you have to be able to find ways to be confident about yourself, whatever that is. Whether you have to go and train, whether you have to go and cardio is king. Marty Miller says, shout out to you. You have to do things that's going to make you confident. Is that you day with another live stream? I'm going to find a specific topic to talk about what is going on out there. Maybe I'll go on my community section and ask what is the next topic that we can talk about in the live stream, or maybe just come up one with my own. But on any regard, guys, it's been a real one. Thank you for tapping in. Thank you for all those that have supported, and not only that, have came and subscribed to my channel. I hope you guys have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next topic, in the next live stream, and in the